Hi, class. So I wanted to do this a little sooner, but yesterday I was in pretty bad shape because of my hand and the injury. But I'm doing slightly better today, and hopefully I'll be able to take your class tomorrow. And so this is what I'm going to be talking about. I know that we were supposed to talk about argumentation and debate, and this is I won't make it too long, but I will be talking a little bit in advance so that you get a chance to watch this video before you come to class tomorrow. And this is what I will be telling you. This is what I intend to talk to you about in regards to argumentation and debate. I have shared a slide with you, just a four slide presentation, and I have done that. If you go to D2L and you see instructor PowerPoint, if you click that, it'll take you right there. So the whole discussion about argumentation and debate has been strategically placed at the end of the semester, as you can see. And I think I mentioned this to you that there's a reason for doing this. This is where all the concepts, and especially your persuasive speech concepts from your persuasive speech is really going to come into play here, and you'll see why. Okay, but then this is going to be slightly more complex than your persuasive speech. The reason is that though the intent is, of course, the intent remains the same. You are doing this to persuade an audience, and in this case, perhaps somebody who's debating with you, maybe an opponent, maybe you could also be in a group, and you are presenting your ideas to a group, and you're trying to persuade a group or maybe your opponent in a debate situation. So there are, there are a few things. There's some more layers now that we need to explore. And I'm just going to build up on what you have already discussed, what we've already discussed in persuasive speech. The first thing that I'm going to tell you is that, remember, we talked about Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And when we talked about Maslow's hierarchy of needs, we talked about the importance of understanding human needs. If you don't understand the need of human beings, then you are not able to get into the mind of the audience, and you're not going to understand what is it that the audience needs. We've talked about how needs and motivation has a direct correlation, which means that the more the needs, the higher is the motivation to get persuaded. Of course, one example would be that if an audience member is extremely thirsty, and you are providing a glass of water, the audience member doesn't care whether you're providing him or her bottled water or sparkling water. All that person needs is a glass of just plain water. So it's a simple thing is that, very high needs, motivated, high level of motivation, and is able to accept any product that is able to adapt or adopt the product or idea that you are trying to persuade about. Okay, so and then we right after Maslow's hierarchy of needs, we talked about one of the various hundreds of models of persuasion. We explored one of them when we talked about Monroe's motivated sequence, which has that 5-step model: the attention step, the need step, the satisfaction, visualization, and action step. Right. So and again, I mentioned to you that I wish we had a bigger a class just focused on persuasion. That would make it easier for us to at least focus on different models of persuasion. But we had to cover so many other things that we had about 2 to 3 weeks for persuasion. And one of the most user-friendly model of persuasion that we discussed in class was Monroe's motivated sequence, right? So, and I could have actually shared, I mean, there are like hundreds of persuasion models, and I was actually pretty, I always try to do some research just to see whether some more theories have been discovered, some more research has been done, because the historical moment is always changing, right? So people try to, or scholars are always trying to explore new things, new theories. So there are so many of them, and I'm glad that I chose Monroe's motivated sequence, because that's kind of a comprehensive, very comprehensive. You can use it for almost. I can say that it has a pretty wide expanse of use. You can actually use it for lots of speech topics. And it also it's very logical. It kind of talks about how important the need step in persuasion is, and the need slash the problem step, and then your solution is like the satisfaction step, and finally you got to seal the deal in the action step, right? So following up with all of this, now we are moving on to argumentation and debate. And with argumentation and debate, I mean, you can actually think about so many things. Well, the popular image about debate is probably, I'm sure when I'm talking about argumentation and debate, you're probably thinking about maybe presidential debate, or maybe some of you've done school debates. Maybe you're thinking about some talk shows where people debate each other, right? I mean, if there's conflicting ideas, and every person there, or maybe if it's a debate between two people, one tries to impose his or her idea on the other person, and the other person, of course, contends his or her position and has a counter argument. So that could be an image that's going on in your mind. So my background in argumentation and debate would be my role as a judge in some debate competitions that I have had in. I've had some of these judging roles at North Central College. And at COD as well. So both places, and if I get into it further, there are different forms of debate. I mean, there's so many different types of debate. The one that I have judged are parliamentary form of debate, which means that there's this affirmative. There's one group which says yes for the motion, says yes to, let's say, completely smoke-free campus at COD, and one group which has two debaters there says yes, and there'll be another group which will be the opposition party, right? So the affirmative party and the opposition party which will say no. All right, so I have done that. So basically, when I've judged competitions, I would be thrown into this class. I won't know the topic. The debate organizer would give me a big sheet of paper with 3 topics, and I had to actually open the envelope inside the class. And when I would do this would be at North Central, in a pretty prime location there, and all the rooms would be open to the judges and open to all the debaters. I've almost seen 50 to 60 students come in a single day and do the debates. So these were all timed debates, and there's a way to do it. The first person who's the ruling party, the affirmative party, basically gets to I get to open it, and then I give them the choice. There are 3 topics, so they read the topic and they decide, and they scratch one topic out, and then it goes to the opposition party where they read the topic, and there are 2 topics left, so they'll scratch the other one out, and then the one that is left is the topic of the day. So that's how it happens, and then they actually have only 15 minutes of prep time, if you will. They come back, and they prep, and they come back. We all come back to the room, so it's just not one judge. There are probably 2 or 3 judges. Sometimes it's just me, and we all come back to the room within 15 minutes, and then it starts. And it's like capsule based. Like, so they have 2 minutes of opening statement, and then 2 minutes of contention. Again, 2 minutes of rounding up the contention and contention and opposition number 1 opposition. So it happens. There's a technique to it. There's a strategy, and every debate form has its own strategy and own technique. I'm not going to get into too much into the details of this, because I don't think those are technique oriented things, strategies that that just requires a little bit of practice, a little bit of understanding memory skills, also to understand what needs to be done and how it's going to be done. But the most important thing, which is why we are here, is to understand, okay, whether it is Lincoln Douglas parliamentary style of debate, whether it is a presidential debate, whether any talk show debate, where if it's a debate, an argument, the first thing is that how strong is your argument? And when you hear a strong argument, how do you counter argue? That's what we need to learn, because no matter what form or what technique is used in the different kinds of debate that you'll probably be exposed to later on, if you want to study about debate further on, I feel that the most important thing is to understand the process of argumentation and counter argumentation. And that's what a debate is basically, two contending ideas, and it just in clash with each other, and just through dialogue and talks, how do you come to a position where both the parties are able to come to they come to a consensus, where they actually see where each party is coming from. That's what the intent is. That's always what the intent. We use, when we are talking about debates, we usually use the word attacking your opponent. That's the way. Those are technique oriented things. In a perhaps in a competitive environment, people do that, and I understand that there is a place for that. How do you attack? How do you analyze this? What is the thing that you need to focus on to run down your opponent? So those are technique oriented things that has emerged in a competitive situation. But the most important thing, and I want you to think about this way, whenever you are in life, when you have two contending positions, try to the whole objective of your debate, of your argument, should be about understanding. You might not agree with your opponent, somebody whose beliefs and values is different than yours, and that's okay. I mean, everybody has their own worldview, everybody has their own perspective, but the intent of dialogue, the intent of a conversation, is able to understand where the other person is coming from. So that should always be the purpose, the final goal in a debate. So instead of me winning and me being one up, one down, it's always about understanding at the end of it. So that's how I wanted to start the discussion. Another thing that I'm going to be showing you here is, I'm going to, one second. I think I queued it, but I will do it again if there's a need. Yeah, I did. Yes, it's right here. Yeah. Yes. So this slide is again available in your D2L. Just go to instructor PowerPoints and you'll see that. And just like I just told you that when we did Maslow's hierarchy, we talked about Abraham Maslow, and how he talked about human needs, and how he said that everything, any sales, any persuasion, anything to do with persuasion, anything to do with sales, anything to do with audience. It could be learners, students. It could be just audience members in the stage, in the podium. Whoever was listening to you, you always need to understand that human beings have needs, and you need to understand what the different kinds of needs. And then we went into the pyramid. Remember, we talked about physiological needs, safety, love and belongingness, self-esteem and self-actualization. We talked about all of that. And another thing that I wish we had some more time to talk about, I think I briefly touched on this one as well, where we talked about the beliefs and values, is that at the end of the day, even if you're selling something as a device, or maybe you're selling an idea or a campaign, the most important thing is, you don't really persuade them to buy your product or your idea or campaign. You actually look into, as a speaker, you're always trying to understand the beliefs and values of the person who you are selling it to. It's always going to be the beliefs and values. And I wish we had some more class sessions where we could just talk about beliefs and values. If you think about the word belief, belief is, when you think about the word belief is based out of your own personal experience. It could be a good experience, it could be a bad experience, but you got to feel it. You have to go through that experience, and based out of the experience, your beliefs are formed. And if you even get into a very deeper analysis, beliefs and values is primarily beliefs is a way of the brain kind of trying to do self-preservation. So the belief will always be, will be a way for you to preserve yourself, so that you don't get destroyed. It just you do everything possible so that you preserve yourself. So every experience that you go through, any experience that, whether it's, as I mentioned, whether it's good or bad, or very happy experience, based out of those experiences, you create your belief system. It not only happens through experiences, again, it also happens through what the media has been feeding you, what your parents have been feeding you, your teachers have been feeding you. All of that creates a belief system. So the problematic thing about your belief system is that sometimes we may believe that a belief is right, but sometimes it could be wrong, right? And so that's where you have moral debates, and people have their own beliefs and values, and it's very hard for them to let go of that. So it's always, when you are persuading, it's always you're trying to change the belief and value of the audience. I wish we could go into that, even further, but I think we explored another facet of persuasion, which was understanding human needs. And then as I told you, we talked about Alan Monroe, who's a professor at Purdue University, and he talked about Monroe's motivated sequence. Today, and the reason I'm talking about all of this, because I'm going to introduce another scholar here. His name is Stephen Toulmin. He's a British philosopher, and I think the picture will help here. So this is how he looks. So his name is Stephen Toulmin, and Stephen Toulmin, just like Dr. Alan Monroe, actually, we know that Monroe's whole motivated sequence has been built out of his innumerable visits to, sales visits to places which would be selling. He would listen to people who are the car salesmen. He would listen to people who are, selling campaigns. So he was interested in that, and he looked at the model that happens there, looked at how selling happens, and he said that, I can hear all of these conversations, and I can create a model out of that I think my communication students, when they are doing a persuasive speech, they can use the same model to do their persuasive speech. That's how he thought about it. This person, as you see here, philosopher Stephen Toulmin, was no different. He was no different. So what he did is he actually visited thousands of courtrooms. He was there. He was an observer. He would see how courtroom proceedings were. He would hear lawyers talk, and for hours, and he went to several court proceedings, and he just saw the way lawyers would argue, and he found that interesting, and he found that very relevant. So he also thought that how do I take all the good stuff out of this, take out the very technical jargons or technical things that most ordinary people are not going to use. They're not going to have that a place of technical jargons in their conversation. So let me get rid of that, but let me take the best essence out of a courtroom dialogue, and let me create a model. And let's make sure that this model reaches all students of debate. So that's how the Toulmin's model of argumentation happened. So here we see it's a pretty simple model. I mean, I would say it is, it requires a little bit of practice. I'm not going to say it's extremely simple. It has complexity. Yes, it does. But you, again, like all things, you have to practice this as many times as possible to understand how it works. So the first thing that he says is you need to have data. So there's 6 elements here: data, claim, warrant, backing, modifier, and rebuttal. Those are 6 things that he talks about. And the first thing is, is the evidence. And I'm going to just stop and talk to you right now. So the first thing is, let's say you are trying to persuade an audience about, let's say you think that one of the topics that that emerged in this class is whether who is a better basketball player. Is it LeBron James or Michael Jordan? Okay, so if and I don't know why I took this example, because I have no clue about basketball, but let's say that's the topic that you've chosen. So what would be a good argument is you would, let's say you feel that Michael Jordan is the best player, then you would present all evidence or evidence slash data slash ground slash proof. That's what we call it interchangeably. So you would be giving us all proofs, all evidence that would support that Michael Jordan is one of the best basketball players, right? So that's your data, okay? And at the end of your data, or at the beginning of your argument, you probably have a claim saying that Michael Jordan is the best basketball player, and then you start providing your evidence. Just give me a second, class. So yeah, sorry about that. So that's when you start providing your evidence, and either you have a claim right at the beginning of the evidence, or you have your claim at the end of the evidence when you provide all the evidence, and then he said, this is why I'm saying Michael Jordan is the best player. You can either have it at the beginning or at the end. It depends upon your choice. So this is what, when we hear evidence, there are a lot of things that goes in your mind. There is a process. That's a human process. Thinking happens in your mind, and based on the evidence, you come to a conclusion, almost like a murder mystery, right? Sometimes you watch a murder mystery and they give you enough evidence, and you try to figure out, based on the evidence that you've watched, who the killer is. It's similar to that. So that's the first thing. You got the data, you got the slash data, evidence, ground. You can call it ground. You can call it proof, and then based on the data, you come to a conclusion, or you come to your claim. All right. So that's the first thing. So what's that's your claim. All right. The second thing, I'm going to go back here, is warrant. Okay. So once okay, I'm sorry here. I just want to do screen share again here. So this is when you make a jump from your, when we heard your, you hear the data, you hear the evidence, you hear the proof, you make a jump to your claim. Based on the data, you come to a conclusion, right? I just told you right now. But there is an invisible something that goes on in your mind that makes you come to a conclusion, right? So this is what we call is warrant or reasoning. There has to be some reasoning that is going on in your mind. It is invisible sometimes, and sometimes it is very clearly stated. Why are you making the claim that you are making through your evidence? And that's called, and we can make a jump from the data to the claim through the warrant or the reasoning. Now, if you think about it, this is one of my most favorite ones in argumentation, is the kind of reasoning that you're using. Again, the reasoning is a very strategic choice. Again, you as a speaker, as a debater, as a person who's creating an argument, you really have to think very hard about what kind of reasoning are you using, and what kind of reasoning do you want the audience or your opponent to have. So when the opponent is actually counter arguing with you, one of the biggest one that they have, a weapon in their hand, if you will, is they're going to attack your reasoning. They might say that your reasoning is not correct. Your reasoning, your reasoning is illogical. They'll come back at you. Okay, so you got to have a very strong reasoning in your argument. And there's a way. And Stephen Toulmin said that There's a way to do that. Okay, so the next step, as you can see from warrant, there's backing. And how Toulmin ensured that the warrant is pretty strong is he created backing. Backing has no other role in the process of argumentation other than to provide support to warrant. Backing constantly is in a dialogue with warrant. So Mr. Backing is always asking Mr. Warrant, do you think you are strong enough? Do you think you should have considered this? Do you think that somebody is, do you think somebody can ride you off? Are you strong enough? So the backing is there to kind of question warrant and to support warrant. Okay, so that's kind of inbuilt in the. Sometimes you can see the backing; it's pretty visible. It has words there, and sometimes backing, like warrant, is pretty invisible. Okay, and it all is all happening in the mind of the audience and the speaker who's creating the argument. The next step, the fifth one, is the modifier. The modifier is that's, I think, the very most simple one. Is basically shows how strong your argument is, and it's done through a word choice. It shows modifier, or you can also call it modality. It shows the strength of the argument. Usually, it'll always have some words like with absolute certainty. That means I'm 100% sure that my claim is true. Maybe sometimes you'll say with careful consideration that I have considered other options. So I'm kind of sure that my claim is true. With most probably my claim is true, which means that I'm not very sure. So these are some word choices that you have in your argument that kind of shows your degree of certainty of your claim. And finally, this is also one of my, I think, if you think about all the 6 steps, my 2 favorite ones are, I'll probably say three. This is a warrant, is backing, and the last one is rebuttal. I love that. Rebuttal is an exception to the claim. So I'll give you an example here. So let's say I try to sell this mouse to you. I've been using it for 5 years. It's a wireless mouse. I bought it from the Amazon marketplace, and I make a claim that I first present my evidence that I've been using it. I've bought it from Amazon marketplace. I've used it. I've used this one, and I've used another one. That other one died on me, and it would sometimes work, sometimes not work. However, I've been using it for the past 5 years, and I've been using it consistently. It's never died on me. It's cheap. It's probably $10, and I could order it through Prime. So I give you all of this evidence, and I say that this is one of the best that Amazon has to offer. This is one of the best mouse. And then I do have a rebuttal there, which is an exception to the claim. And exception means, in this situation, my claim that this is the best mouse may not be true. So what are the 2 rebuttals that I give you? Except my 2 exceptions to the claim is I may tell you that, if I dip this mouse in a glass of water, then this mouse will stop working. Or if I drag this mouse on a very uneven, hard surface, then it doesn't work. So you might think right now is, why would you say these things? You're trying to sell this mouse. Why would you say these things to make your position weak? I will disagree here. I personally try to buy products or ideas where I think that the person has really done research and tells me the pros and the cons. And usually, because the pros are so good that even if the cons exist, I will try not to see it. Okay. So here as well, the kind of rebuttals to the claim that I had is, what are the chances of somebody dipping it in water? What are the chances? Or everybody has a smooth surface to work on. What are the chances that they're going to drag it on an uneven surface? So even though I had exceptions to the claim, those were weak exceptions. It's not going to really change the mind of the buyer or whoever my audience is, and say that, no, these are really serious ones. It's going to really deter me from buying this mouse. So that's what a rebuttal does. So when it shows this person who has an argument, shows that the person has really considered various angles, has really considered all angles, and has done great research and is quite aware of some of the limitations. It's just human to have any idea to have limitations, right? And is quite aware and is explicitly telling us what some of the limitations of his or her claim is. So it's just that. All right. So that's the Tooml's model of argumentation. Now, what I will do right now is let me see. I will actually, you know what? Tomorrow, I'm just going to stop here, and I actually wanted to show you President Obama's short 3-minute argument on the Syrian crisis, and I would have liked to discuss that with you, but I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to give you these today. I've just given you these concepts. I don't want to make this video too long. I will take it up right from here, and on tomorrow when we meet, I will start talking about. I'll take that example, and I will show you how Toulmin's model of argumentation, which has data claim, warrant backing, modifier, and rebuttal, how that works there. And then I will put you into groups. We're going to have a group exercise, following which I'll have some more exercises for you. So there'll be a lot of exercises which you guys have to do tomorrow in class. And that's it. So I will see you tomorrow, hopefully. I don't see, I'm on painkillers, but I think I'll be able to function. I can at least move the mouse and everything. So, all right, guys, I'm going to see you tomorrow.